Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night.
Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Boogeyman Radio. I am Senor Dave.
And I am El Senor Charles.
Mi amigo. Hey, we've already got 3 people in here already. That's cool. Good deal. Guys, tonight we are going to be talking about paranormal events. And, like, we're not just going to be talking about, like, conferences, but there's other paranormal events out there, like these investigations with celebrities and all this stuff. But the reason we came upon this topic in particular, you know, I did a post on Facebook in regard to, you know, vendor tables and how much I charged versus something I saw from another conference that was charging like what I figured was a high amount. But a lot of people jumped in the comments, had some things they wanted to put in there. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just do a show on this subject, and we're going to give people a voice. You know, we're going to give them information. Let's get everybody right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I feel like I should have my hat flipped around and my blue jean vest like Jim Varney.
That'd be perfect.
Dude, nobody ever like gets that. Like, you mention Jim Varney, they're like, who? And you're like, Ernest P. Worrell. Like, people don't get it.
Weirdos.
We were at Malvern this past week.
Yes, we were.
Do we want to talk about our time there? Like,
I think we should talk about it.
Besides the vlog, obviously.
Yes. Also, our guest was at Malvern not too long ago too, and I'd like to hear from him maybe some stuff that might have happened with him eventually. But for us, yes, it was a great time, especially that first day.
The first day was good. But you know what I found interesting about our time there was
when I dropped my recorder through the freaking chimney.
That was hilarious. We got to tell that story. We have to tell that story.
We'll tell it.
But what I found fascinating was, even though the nights seemed pretty dead, like no pun intended, but like during the day it seemed to be more active than the night. It was
pretty active. Like, well, we'd hear so much stuff going on just sitting, chilling, talking to Josh, whatever. Stuff would just be happening like crazy.
Yeah, we heard voices.
Yep.
I had the freaking door pulled shut out of my hands, which was weird.
That was awesome.
So, we set up a TikTok. I was doing an experiment to show Josh, you know what he could expect on TikTok. You know.
Yes.
Just did a live stream for 30 minutes. Camera sitting on the haunted doll, and we put the doll in the nurse's station on the counter.
Yeah. And
30 minutes had gone by. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get my camera, shut down the stream. The door was just kind of resting against the jamb, right? So, you know. So I go down there, and I just get my fingertips on the doorknob, and the door just sucks shut. And I'm like,
yeah. What?
It's a big door. It's a thick frame.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a shut. And it wasn't a vacuum created because nobody went in or out. You two were sitting in that lobby area.
Mm-hmm.
And the door
Josh and I were just chill. We were literally just sitting in the chairs talking. And then I hear you make a fuss, and I'm like, oh, great, what do you do now? Like, of course he's having stuff happen to him when he's by himself. Like, of course. Jesus.
Of course. Damn it, guys.
God. Just want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you for being here. Love you guys. Yes, it was... But please, continue with your story. Anyway.
So, yeah, door just pulls shut out of my hands, and I'm just like, hey guys. And you guys
what just happened?
And I was like, I wanted somebody to come down there, not because I was scared, but because if anything else were to happen, I wanted validity.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted somebody else to experience.
No, Dave's not crazy. That actually happened.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Malvern was a great place.
Oh,
great to spend the entire week up there. Got to do it again.
Of course. Like, that was a dream come true right there for me. So
Yeah.
staying Monday to Thursday at Malvern was it was amazing. It was a great time. Can't wait for the next one, whenever that's going to be. But,
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, we don't even have to ask each other, how was your week? Because we know what our week
we
was.
know how our we know
We were at
exactly how our
Malvern.
week was. Other
Um,
than I didn't. I can't really say I had any like holy shit moments. Like we had some good moments. Don't get me wrong. We had some pretty good activity that people will see and all that good jazz. Well, there was one holy shit moment
when you dropped your recorder.
when I dropped my recorder. So, all right, I'll go through the story real quick. Or do we want to bring our guest on and we'll talk about it?
Now let's just talk about it real quick, then we'll bring
All
him
right.
on.
So we were in the attic. I had no idea, by the way, that this is a chimney in the freaking attic of Malvern. No idea. Last time I was there was a sheet over it. Didn't think about it. So I go, hey, I'm gonna put my recorder in the chair. Just saying it out loud to Dave. He's like, well, why don't you put it up there? So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll put it up there.
Oh,
So-
and let me just say, the reason I wanted you to put it up there because it was in the center of the room.
Exactly. Yes.
You know.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
So I went to put my recorder up there, and I guess I set it on a not too level spot, and it goes whoop right down into the chimney. So
All the
I'm
way
sitting
from
there
the
like, well, I hear it scratch off the side of the chimney, and I'm like, I look at you, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Mind you guys, we did that live on TikTok.
Yes.
Like, it happened on TikTok with like 600 something like people watching us. It was great, right?
It was
Wonderful
awesome.
times. So I'm thinking, I was like, crap. Like this old building hasn't been like this chimney hasn't been an operation for a long time. So it's probably caved in, or what's the status of the chimney? So we're
And
thinking, it's like, okay,
As soon as he dropped his recorder, I started laughing because
yep.
I mean,
'Cause
I'm an
Dave's a
asshole.
terrible
It's funny to
friend.
me. But I'm like, okay, so anybody watching this live stream, if you want to donate to the Charles Needs a New Recorder Fund. Anyway.
Which
I wanted to
will
help you
say,
out.
Thankfully, though, we went down to the attic. We found a
basement.
piece of down to the attic. We went down to the basement. We looked around. The thing was entirely sealed off. So at first I was like, well, it's over. Like, I had fully accepted defeat. And then there was this piece of pipe that was sticking out that you could tell was used as an old, like, way to maybe get heat up through the building or something. And we were like, well, let's see if it budges. So we take it, and it just comes right out. And at first, though, when we were looking with the camera before we pulled the pipe out, I saw something fuzzy and black. I was like, oh my god, there's a dead animal in here. There's something there's something fuzzy in here. It didn't smell, so it couldn't have been a dead animal, but that's just what my mind thought. And Dave goes, oh no, it's probably some burnt wood from the like.
I mean, it looked like
From
charred
that-
wood.
Yeah,
Makes
no,
sense.
which makes sense because also the fire that happened. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Plus it's a chimney. Yeah. Anyways, so we pull the pipe out, and he's looking around or whatever. We find my recorder, for one, with just a battery popped out, dusty as hell, but just a battery fell out.
So
we find
got
a
that
little,
recovered.
yeah, we got that recovered. A stuffed teddy bear, a crystal, a penny, and a bell on a like a necklace kind of thing. It was just like a
Yeah.
necklace with a bell. I think it belonged to the teddy bear. Not gonna lie.
Well, it wasn't a bear; it was a dog.
Okay,
But,
dog,
like, it was
whatever.
still a stuffed animal, right?
Yes. So
And
we pulled those out, and I was thinking, I was like, great, we're gonna stir some shit up now that we pulled it out. Like,
So if anybody's watching, if you're the person that lost that stuffed animal, and you see it
found
up
it.
in the attic, don't freak out. It wasn't the ghost. But if
Yeah.
you aren't watching this and you go there and you find your stuffed animal sitting up there, probably gonna freak out like, oh my god, the ghost brought it back.
but on the plus side, cleaned off the recorder, put the battery back in, and it works just fine. So the Olympus recorders, they can survive 4 stories of falling through a chimney down. I'm thinking the teddy bear may have broken the fall a little bit, or the stuffed animal may
Probably.
have broken the fall. So thank goodness for that freaking stuffed animal.
Yeah.
But it still works. Thank
The
goodness.
spirits, they foreseen this.
Yes, they knew it was going to happen. But so yeah, that was my oh shit moment at Malvern.
So guys, if you notice down in the bottom left corner, We do have a Patreon page if you want to become a Patreon member and catch more of tonight's show and other shows. We have an After Dark show that we do on our Patreon just for our Patreon members. So a continuation of this show is going to happen over there at 9:15. So to sign up, costs you less than a gallon of gas, and support the channel, support everything that we do, and we can do more, bring you more content like we've been doing lately, and we can continue that. Also, we have our shop right here, the Haunting History Threadless.com shop. You can get some kick-ass merch, especially the tees, like Charles is wearing, the Boogeyman Radio t-shirt. Boom, fire. Looks great on you, buddy.
Thanks, man.
We have other shirts, the Poultry Guys, the Haunting History, the It's Not Paranormal, It's Paratainment shirt, one of my favorite shirts, all on our shop. So just go to hauntinghistory.threadless.com. That's another way you can support us. And if you do get a shirt, send us a picture of you in it.
Take a picture of you wearing that shirt and send it to us. And eventually, who knows? It'll wind up some part of the show, maybe. We never know.
We'll show everybody, look, somebody supports the show, they're rocking the tee. So, and we'll give you a shout out.
We need to make like a vulgar one, kind of. You know what I'm
vulgar
saying?
One?
Like kind of. Like just our, like that really shows our smartassery. You know what I'm saying?
I've got another one design. I haven't uploaded it yet. It says Paradick, but the I in Dick is a magnifying glass.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that. But
yeah. Dick is an investigator. Dick, detective, investigator.
His name is Richard? I'm kidding.
Para Richard. Yes, add to cart and buy now. All of them. One of each. Or two of each if you wanted to give one as a gift. All right, guys. So tonight we're talking paranormal events. And are they worth it?
Yes.
Now, in order to do this subject justice, I thought it was probably best that we bring on somebody that has operated and set up and run some big events, namely the Kansas City Paracon. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, your friend, Mr. Jason Kupsik. Howdy ho!
We need a clap track or something, Dave.
Yeah, no shit. Show us your tits.
That should be that would be a perfect paranormal shirt. Just like show us your tits and a ghost going boo, and the boo is the boobs.
For some reason my mic was muted. Now you can hear me, I think.
Yeah.
My shirt says I hate people.
I love it.
And yet you do public events.
Yeah. So first off, I'm going to say you aren't the first person to lose something down that chimney. Actually, when I was there that weekend, somebody that was with me told me a story of a camera that went down that, and they went down there and got it. So those things you found happened after that camera fell in there years ago.
I hope it was just like a GoPro, not like a big camera, expensive.
I don't quite remember what he said it was. Whatever it was did survive. As far as those Olympus recorders go, I had one that was left on the roof of a car that landed in the middle of a gravel road, and I think got ran over. We went back and we found it, and it still works. I still use it today.
Jeez.
So 4 stories, getting ran over. Man, those things are tanks.
And I was going to show you here for people looking. That exit sign down there on my screen, that's from Malvern Manor.
Nice.
Which one?
Oh yeah,
the exit sign there. It's like a glass globe. It's red with exit on 2 sides.
Oh, nice.
So that's from Malvern.
Nice.
Did they replace them, or did Josh give it to you, or what?
Josh gave it to me either right before they opened to the public or right after. I don't remember.
wow.
I've had it for several years now.
Been a while.
Yeah.
All right,
Nice.
so real quick, we did talk about, Dave and I talked about a little bit. Is there anything that you can disclose that's not going to be put into a video about if anything happened at you with you at Malvern?
So for the most part, anything that I put into a video in the future has already been on Austin's channel.
Yeah, it's
So
already
out there.
Okay.
I heard things like I always do there, like most people do.
Yeah.
Saw a few shadows, not the Shadow Man, but saw a few shadows. I saw Gracie sitting in her wheelchair when I walked by the room.
Nice.
In what capacity? Like, did you see shadow?
I saw her
figure?
outline because the window there kind of illuminates the room a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So I saw. It was in the wheelchair, so I can't say that it was Gracie, but it was a shadow person sitting in the wheelchair there as I walked past, and then when I looked back, it wasn't there anymore.
Real quick, there's a link to that video, that Malvern video. I just put it in the comments there for you guys.
But for the most part, it was probably one of the least active times I was there for me, not for the group, because I booked it for one night. And I ended up staying 2 nights because I knew the people that were for the second night as well.
Oh, nice.
And what kept happening was they would be in an area doing some stuff and getting some activity. I would come in, it would all stop.
Oh no!
And then when I left, it would start back up again.
Huh.
Specifically, most notably down in the Shadow Man hallway. But it did happen in a couple other places. But yeah, it was like nothing would happen for me down there. And I don't know why, but the last time I was there previously, we were doing some provocative stuff down there in that hallway.
Whoa.
Like vacuuming, that's very provocative, but he doesn't like that.
Were you showing
down
some
there?
Skin? Sorry.
What kind of dress were you wearing?
Larry was the one showing skin. Austin was just in shock. He didn't know what was going on. As far as Larry showing skin,
why are they cleaning
not the
right
paranormal.
Yeah, right.
There is a very funny shot at the very, very end of Austin's video where it's just me and Larry on either side of Austin. He's this little tiny doll-looking dude, and us too.
Oh yes,
on either side of him. But it was a great weekend. Malvern doesn't ever disappoint. I mean, I still heard stuff in there. I still saw a few things. And, honestly, other than people like Dave and I, and you to a point, I know you haven't investigated quite as much as we have, you kind of get jaded to some things. So a lot of people would have, like, their whole year would have been made for the stuff that I noticed or that I saw, interacted with that weekend. And to me, it was just another time at Malvern. So
right.
I think because of my time at Garnet, that's now happened to me.
Okay.
Where it's like all this crazy activity happens at Garnet, and then you go to another location, and it's like it's still crazy for some people, but it's like, oh yeah, cool, yeah. Like I remember we were sitting around, and this was during Austin's filming of the actual documentary that he was making, and I think the ball fell out of the attic or something, and Austin said it out loud, and we were all just sitting around, and Spurrier was like, well, yeah, that's Garnet. Everybody just lays around while the ball flies out of the attic. Just like kind of says, because we're all used to it, It's just, you just get used to things like, oh, yeah, cool. Nice.
So I do want to mention one more thing about Malvern, and then we'll move on. So while we were there, I was live streaming, and I was in Susie's room.
Oh, yeah, this session. Yeah.
And while I was up there, and I was just up there by myself, and this REM pod thing that we got from Katie Stafford was going off, and I started hearing walking out in the hallway.
Yeah,
and
you thought it was me.
Yeah, it was so loud and prevalent. I was waiting for somebody to come by the door jam. Nobody walked by. It like stopped before it got there, and I thought Charles had come up. So I was like,
which room was this?
I was in Susie's room.
That's down next
by
to.
Inez.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. It's the one with all the drawing books.
Yeah.
And
the crooked hallway.
Yeah, the crooked hallway. Yeah. Which is where we had the best activity. But hey.
But where I was going with this, like the activity, the footsteps I heard twice, but the first time it was so loud, I thought Charles was coming up, and he verified through the chat on the live stream that he was still
I
downstairs.
was just sitting downstairs watching all this happen, and I remember you're like, Charles, like, are you there? I'm like, you trying to speak to me through the computer, Dave, or what? Nope.
So Josh put out a video today, where he's in the same spot, right in front of Susie's room, and he recorded footsteps coming down that hallway.
Okay,
they're actually really good.
Does
really
that
good.
seem like then it would be intelligent, or is that just something reoccurring, you think?
Could be reoccurring, but what happened after he heard the footsteps kind of signifies some intelligence. I'm not going to spoil it,
Okay.
but if you guys go watch
Watch the
Josh's
video,
video,
okay.
just go to Josh Hurd on YouTube, and
There
the latest one.
there is one more thing that happened that weekend that is a pretty big thing, and I think Austin did talk about it in his video. It happened to my friend Shane upstairs and his family. On the first night, I had my friend Shane Coffey out of Council Bluffs and his family come and hang out. And I was giving them the tour. We were upstairs. We were in the attic. And after the tour was done, we all came down the attic, and I was the last one out of the attic. And they were walking down the hallway. It was him, his wife, and two boys that are teenage years. And they stop at one of the rooms at the end of the hallway before the stairs. So as to be the room on the right before the two rooms. They stop and go in there, and they were having fun with the K2. They were messing around, so I just didn't want to bother them. I went down the stairs and went into the room. So Shane was at the door jamb facing in the room while they were all in there. I walked behind him. I went down the stairs. He said that at one point he backed up. He thought I was standing right next to him. Like he felt like I was there the whole time. Then he backed up a little bit more and stood next to the stairs facing down the hallway towards the attic. And he thought I was standing over by the window at the top of the stairs.
Holy
And he
cow.
turned around. He saw me. He thought it was me. There was a person standing there in the dark looking out the window.
Dude, that
And it was
staircase
built
has
exactly
so much...
like me. He thought he was talking to me. His younger son walked up next to him, looked at the shadow person as well. He flipped on his headlamp, melted away. His son saw it too.
Damn.
So two people. Wow.
Yeah. They thought it was me the whole
Man.
time until they flipped on the light. He was like, "Why is Jason not responding to me?"
I have a similar story, but I'm gonna wait. I'll share that on the After Dark.
I was just gonna say, a friend of mine has seen somebody peek over the stair, like that same spot, but over the staircase, looking down, and she saw it, and it just like disappeared right in front of her eyes. That's crazy.
Yeah,
wow.
it's,
That's
I
cool.
didn't witness it, but it was definitely the big hit of the weekend.
Wow.
No, there was no probing at Malvern. Although
That staircase scares me, man. I gotta
my
say
calves
that.
did hurt. I did get a cramp, so there's that. All right, guys, we're gonna jump into our subject here. Jason, you've put on several conferences in Kansas City.
Yes,
You're in fact getting ready to.
I'm putting on a different event, but I don't want to get anybody's hopes
no.
up out there. It's not the Paracon.
Yeah, it's not the Paracon, but you are working on another one.
I
so
am
you're
working
still
on
active.
what's called the Midwest Bushcraft Show. It's an outdoors event, very similar in structure to the Paracon.
Okay. I didn't know if you wanted to give any information out about it yet.
It's going to be
or
in
not.
April in Kansas City. If anybody out there is interested in outdoors bushcraft, it's called the Midwest Bushcraft Show. We're going to announce the date and venue here soon. But yeah, I am working on that right now. I did, as far as Paracons go, the 9th one was the one that got canceled in 2020.
Right.
So I organized 8 of them, and 7 of them happened. And the 9th one was the 9th one because the 3rd one I didn't have anything to do with.
Right.
I took off that time. But yeah, so I did that from, I don't know, 2012 to
Okay.
2020.
He
That was a
he
long
did a
time.
long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so having you on, you've got the experience behind it. I just did mine this last year. Charles has been to a few of them, so we've all got like some kind of experience with these. So
I'm the consumer.
I made a post.
I think you did very well with yours, to be honest, and I felt bad having to leave, but I told you earlier, and I'll put it out there. I'm not embarrassed by it. I was having some severe anxiety issues for a while there, and it just kind of all came together, and I've actually gotten better recently. So that's why I took off.
Mental health is important, guys. Come on now.
So I made this post on Facebook about for my event, I charged anywhere from $65 to $80 for a booth, depending on the booth. I recently was looking at some advertisements for different Paracons, and I noticed one of them got my attention. I went to go check the vendor booths and how much they were, because that's what they were advertising, trying to get more vendors. And I looked, and the vendor cost was $300, and I almost pooed my pants when I saw that. It caught me off guard, because I just don't think that a vendor should have to pay that much, because they have to make the money back from their travel and all that. So it sparked up this whole conversation on Facebook, and so here we are. A lot of different things. There's a lot of things that go into these Paracons that people just don't know about, and I figured we could discuss it. Do you have something you wanted to add?
Just real quick, just to give me a perspective here. Do either of you guys know how much a booth is for Planet Comic-Con?
I know that at one point, the most expensive booth was probably close to $1,300. But that was a big corner end booth that had to do with, and that was like right before the event. They go up as they, rush it through. But I think is around $600 for the cheapest retail booth there.
Which, to make sense though, to me that makes sense because of how much traffic comes through Planet Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much freaking traffic.
Hundreds of thousands of people that go to these events. So
right, okay, but sorry, that just gives me a perspective.
Well, and there's artist ones where they don't sell anything that are a little bit cheaper, but I think the cheapest is $450, $500. The last time I looked, which was a couple years ago.
Which makes sense why there's a huge artist alley kind of like section.
Right,
makes a lot of sense. But anyways,
so let's just say we're putting together a Paracon, right? What are some of the costs that people don't realize are being accounted for when you're putting together a Paracon? This is information people just don't think about or don't even know about. Like, let's go with speakers, bringing in guest speakers. What have you found, Jason, in your attainment of speakers? How have you gone about it, and how much, if you want to disclose any amounts, like how much have you experienced having to pay for like an individual?
For the first 5 years, first 4 years, every speaker donated their time and travel. They didn't ask for anything. It's kind of how the event got built. And because of that, I had structured my event from the beginning. I was still doing the same near the end. If 2020 happened, it would have been a little bit different just because the lineup we did plan on. Yeah. But I had always structured it to have the vendors cover the cost of the venue, and then the cost of the ticket sales to kind of cover everything else. And the first year that I met you, David, was the 5th year of the conference. It was the first time I booked someone a hotel room, and it was a very bad experience with that guy. And it wasn't 100% his fault, but nobody was really there for him. Nobody really knew who he was. I thought he would bring in a following that he didn't, and he didn't spend any time with anybody other than when he was on stage and then left. I don't even remember the guy's name.
Oh wow.
He was an author, wrote a couple books, and the only part that was really his fault was that he didn't spend any time with the crowd other than when he was on stage. So that was the first time I was asked to give any funds for a speaker. And
I think I know who this was too, but
I can't remember his name.
I'm not going to throw his name under it.
Fine.
And I'm just not going to throw his name under the bus, but I think
it's fine. So then the first year that I booked a celebrity was the last year for the event, and it was the only speaker that I ever, other than the hotel room, that I ever paid a fee for, and that was Chad Lindbergh. And he was $1,200, I think. He was around 1,200 plus hotel and flight.
Right.
So the last year, the 2020 that got canceled, the highest paid one, well, potentially highest paid one would have been Grant
Wilson.
Grant Wilson. He had what was called a $5,000 guarantee. So your fee to him is $5,000 minus what he sells at his table in autographs and other things.
Okay.
So if he sells $2,500 worth of things at his table, he only costs $2,500.
Right.
And if he sells $5,000, you don't have to pay him anything.
Nice.
So that's what the deal was we had with Grant. We had Dustin Perry booked for that year, but a sponsor was picking up the bill for him. So I don't know how much he would have been.
Nice.
The same with Brandy Green.
Mm-hmm.
And the other person that I was paying for was Dean Haglin. And I don't remember what his cost is off the top of my head, honestly. It was around the probably $750 mark.
Wasn't there a person that you guys looked into that had like a astronomical fee? I remember you telling me.
So I don't know about who that was off the top of my head, but I do know that the class, like the cost of people in the paranormal field, is minuscule compared to a B-list celebrity at like Planet Comic-Con. Like,
could you imagine how
they'll
much
be
freaking Ralph Macchio was? I'm
well,
sure he was
yeah,
expensive.
I don't know, but I can't remember. There was the blonde girl in the first season of American Horror Story who played the maid. She was also in Walking Dead for a couple of later seasons.
The one that played Andrea?
Yeah, she was like 50,000 plus.
Woo!
For a day for an event.
Damn.
And I didn't look in, that's just what I was told. But like that's the kind of money that you're not finding anybody less than $20,000 that's a D-list celebrity or above outside the paranormal field. The most, and he doesn't really do events. I did see that Zach was listed on an agency for, I want to say $25,000 to $30,000.
Zach Bagans.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was for Paracons. I don't think he does those anymore, or
he doesn't.
Hasn't in a very long time.
None of them do Paracons.
I think it was for other types of events, because it wasn't through a paranormal agency. It was through a regular talent agency.
So from what I understand is Zach's got something in their contracts where they cannot do any Paracons. Mm-hmm. At least while they're under contract with the show.
But that being said, these events out there that have 10, 15 different TV people, they're shelling out a good amount of money for an event. Even if it doesn't compare to regular celebrities, it's a huge cost.
Yeah, so...
Because you're also paying... Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but you're also paying for hotel and travel for them.
Exactly. That's what I was getting ready to go into is, with... let's just say a Paracon in general, not any specific one, because certain ones get certain discounts on certain people and so on and so on, or they just go for free, whatever. But just in general, like somebody, okay, so like I was going to have Brian Murray come out for mine. Him and Rochelle, they go everywhere together. Typically, they're $1,500. He actually dropped that agency because he didn't want to charge anybody for it. So one thing that has to be taken into consideration, a lot of these people that have some success in the paranormal field or entertainment field of the paranormal, they have agents. They have agencies representing them. Those agencies have to get paid as well as the people that are going. So you're not just paying the one person, you're paying the agency as well. So there's a guarantee. My lights just went off.
I noticed that.
There's a guarantee that they're going to get paid. And then, like you said, there's the travel, there's the food, there's the lodging. All that stuff has to be taken into consideration.
And it's also, there's not, for especially some of the bigger ones, you're not just paying for their travel. You have to pay and board an assistant as well. You have to pay for their travel and pay for their hotel. I had to do that with Chad, which, you know, I don't mind saying on here, it was just he was dating his agent at the time.
Oh.
And I basically paid for them to have a weekend together.
Yeah.
Away. It wasn't that he needed, well, maybe Chad needed the help. I don't know. But yeah, so there's all those costs associated with speakers. There's also event insurance.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And it, you know, that if you do it right, it can be cheap, but it's not nothing.
No. And sometimes, like, yeah, you have to pay for the venue in some form or fashion. And some venues will include insurance in that payment. They'll cover the insurance and everything. But sometimes you have to get your own insurance to cover for the event. Something happens.
I think I remember going to the one up in, up in Richmond. Weren't they trying to make Nick pay for the sound system?
Like do what?
An extra. So Nick, the guy who put on the one up in Richmond, the Paracon up in Richmond.
Oh yes, yeah.
Weren't they
trying
to make him pay for the sound system too?
Like
yeah,
a rental.
to use their sound system.
Yeah, to rent the sound system. They were trying to make him pay for that.
I mean, honestly, I don't fault venues for getting every little bit of money that they can.
I don't either. I was just saying.
So yeah,
another
so
example of.
Yeah, there's packages out there. There's also where it's piecemeal, where you got to pay for the tables, or for the most part, I got really lucky with every venue that I grew into. Reasonably cost. Even so, I actually planned another Paracon for this year. I planned it at the end of summer of last year. And I told myself, I'm going to plan this event until I have to commit to a date or commit to money. And when it came to that point, I was like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So, but I talked this venue down $5,000 from 10 to 5 for a full weekend because the event was different than what they normally have.
Yeah.
So people can lower costs especially if they find a venue that's interested in your type of event.
Now, I will say with the venue that I had, I got lucky with because they did include the insurance with the venue rental. Now, they had different rooms that I could get as well. Like there's an extra building I could have got for like an X amount of money, or using just a space that was upstairs. I could have used, if I had paid extra, I could have used that space. But I'm like, you know, this is all coming out of my own pocket. So
yeah, exactly.
For the most part, most of it was coming out of my own pocket. But the to make that money back, that's where the vendor cost comes in, the vendor fees. Now, you know, I had said, you know, 65 to 80 was what I charged for the vendor fees, depending on the booth size and stuff like that, and electricity. And then that helped cover a portion. Not a big portion, because I did not get a whole lot of vendors. It ended up being just about the right amount of vendors, though. But the vendors are one way to make that money back. The ticket sales are another way to help make some of that money back, because at the end of the costs, I mean, you're investing thousands of dollars, like thousands. And I don't know about anybody else, but I just don't have thousands of dollars laying around. So, you know, the vendor cost has to do something. The ticket sales have to do something. Selling merch, T-shirts,
True.
It's another way to recoup some of the costs. And then, you know, there's always the ghost hunts, the extracurricular activities, as I like to call them.
You mean like the random spook light where a bunch of people were going to...
Yeah, I should have charged everybody. You want to go see the spook light? Come on.
So let's like a 2 or 3 person thing. It turns out to be like 8, 9.
12. I think 12 people in
Jesus.
total went.
Let's
That's why I
circle
didn't
back
go.
to the cost of the
Okay.
venue table, because that's kind of where the discussion started and where this.
Yeah, that's where it all began. So,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
the first year I had the Paracon, I don't think I had vendor tables because I didn't have a space for it. It was just presenters. And the second year, I don't know the exact amount, but I probably started out around $50 per vendor table. I
Right.
don't think I had a difference between if you had electricity or not. I think I just had $50 or less. It wasn't more than $50 for a vendor table for the first year.
Yeah.
And it was all in the same room. You had the vendor tables and the speakers going in the same room. And then the third year, I didn't do it. The fourth year, honestly, I don't even remember where we had it. That's so bad. But I also, so the 2020, the year that got canceled, I believe that I was asking between $250 and $300 for a vendor table.
Oof.
So I don't remember exactly. I could look it up because I have it somewhere. But that's because at that point I had built the event for 9 years.
Right.
A lot of the same vendors kept coming back and the venues kept getting bigger, and I used the vendors to pay for the venue. I'm sure I lost some vendors because they didn't want to pay that much, but it was filled with other vendors.
Right.
And it was also a way for me to keep ticket prices lower in my mind, because I know that there's a lot of Paracons out there, smaller ones that have smaller ticket prices, but the big Paracons, some of those ticket prices, that's where the money is rather than vendors.
Yeah.
And I didn't want attendees to have to pay more than $10, $15 to attend the event.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. You know, whenever I made my post, I was shocked at the $300 price, because I felt like, you know, at $65, I should have had a lot more interest in vendor space. And, you know, somebody had commented, well, these other conferences, they have people that are on TV. I'm like, well, so did I. You know, that's not it. That's not the reason why the costs were so high. I just it's hard to justify up to a certain point, but then when you start thinking about it, like you had said, at some point you get established and you know you're going to have X amount of turnout. You know how the interest is. You can gauge that. But at that point you can kind of, you know, raise your rates or whatever for the vendors.
Get established first, and then build on. Then you can make some capital from it.
And those vendors know it too, or they should know it.
Of course.
That, you know, this is a good busy event. It's worth going to.
Especially if your venues keep getting more expensive, you need to have the vendors help with that venue cost. It kind of just makes sense that if you get a bigger venue, which tends to cost more, you kind of raise the prices up a little bit.
It also, and I know that this isn't, that you wish you had this problem with vendors at your event, Glidden, but it weeds out some of the less
appealing,
not appealing ones that don't necessarily fit into your event.
Right.
Because the first year that I did the bushcraft event, I set it so low that I was having all these different vendors that didn't fit in with the theme. And they booked and I let them come, and that's fine. But they didn't sell a much, to make back their little bit. So a little bit higher, you're going to weed out those like Scentsy candle makers and stuff like that might fit into your event but might not.
Right.
That also, you don't want half of your vendors to all be selling the same thing.
Right.
That's the other thing too, because there are so many crystal vendors. There's so many vendors that sell Ouija boards and things like that. It is a little difficult to find the good mix, without going so far out of pocket, out of the genre.
But I mean, if if a place can charge, like, you mentioned it earlier, Charles, I don't fault Comic-Con at all for charging $1,300 for a spot if they can get it.
Exactly.
So I don't, and not that this was your point of your post, David, but I don't look down on an event at all for the amount that they charge for different things if they're getting it. If they don't get it, then they'll learn and they will do it differently the next time.
No, the whole point of my post, which kind of I think got misconstrued as well, was it was me like freaking out because they can charge so much and get the vendors, and they have vendors or an exorbitant amount of vendors and get their vendor spaces booked up really quick, whereas I'm charging a lower price and I had a hard time getting vendors in.
Yeah,
that's what got me. That was what my post was about, but and I understand, with the stability of an event or reputation of an event comes the more vendors, the higher prices and stuff like that. You can do more with it, but that's what my post was originally about. Some people may have read it wrong or read it different, but that's what it was about. That's what I meant on it.
Like, also, like, a big part of that, which we found out pretty quick, but that weekend was a big weekend for festivals, so vendors were active everywhere. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, unfortunately, it was a bad weekend as far as other events happening in the same area. So the amount of people, amount of vendors could have gone to those events. You know what I mean? Oh
yeah. Now, Jason, you said something that brought up a question for me. Was your ticket sales would cover the cost of guest speakers and stuff like that, but how can you predict your ticket sales in covering the cost of select speakers? Like,
I didn't get to the point of actually figuring that out, to be honest. I got lucky that in 2019 I was able to cover Chad's costs and everything with extra vendor sales after the venue was covered, and ticket sales, as well as I did a t-shirt sponsorship where I don't know, that shirt probably had 20 logos on the back that it was.
I have that shirt.
100. Each of those sponsors paid $50 to $100 to have their logo on there.
Yeah.
So and then I sold the shirts themselves. So but to your point, there's no way to predict ticket sales.
Like, I mean, can
at
you
least
just,
that I've been able to find.
Have you at least just kind of looked at the previous year and said, okay, well, we did this amount of ticket sales, about this amount of money is our budget for this next year because we should be able to hit this mark?
Yes and no. I mean, it's always a risk. It's always a risk. There's nothing that you can do you can mitigate those risks by trying to find sponsors and stuff like that. But
something that was one of my big things for that Paracon was trying to get sponsorship.
With the contracts you have with speakers, I got lucky because I got lucky in the being able to cancel those contracts because it was shut down due to COVID.
Yeah.
Those contracts are pretty solid, and you can't, it's not that you would want to get out of it, but there was a whole slew of Paracons, both before COVID and after, that had been going for a while, that all started to fail because they stopped paying their speakers.
Yeah.
They're big ones. So
that one in Vegas was like a really big one, but it got a lot of attention for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I think there was one up north, not the one in very far north, but one up north in Minnesota or Wisconsin that also did the same thing. But it's always a risk. So 2020 Paracon, not that this would have been out of my pocket, but the overall budget, that if it would have happened, the amount of money that it would have cost just to pay out of pocket would have been $30,000 to $40,000.
Woo!
Damn.
Now that's covered by all kinds of things, ticket sales
Yeah.
and vendor sales and everything. But that's what the budget of the event would have been. And the first thing to go, which is, well, most of those speakers require deposits, but the first thing to go if you don't have any money is the last things that get paid, and that's typically is the speakers.
Yep. Because you definitely have to pay the venue.
Yeah,
There's
you have
no-
to pay the venue beforehand.
There's no
long
not
beforehand.
paying them.
Right.
Um,
Oh, we don't have a place to go. Sorry, guys.
yeah. And you know, something that people just don't think about is like the advertising it takes to get the attention. Some, like, I'm a little lucky. I do have a little bit of a following, so that was good. But I also have some media connections here with TV stations where I went on TV and advertised it. But they still wanted me to purchase a package with a commercial and all this stuff to be run like so many times and whatnot. But they were going to discount that for me as well. But like that's extra money that I would have had to fork out to do that on just one station. So I would have been putting probably another $1,000 to $1,500 in just advertising with those stations if I had done that. But I just did like the morning show thing, which is free. It's always free. Guys, don't, if you have to advertise anything, go on a morning show because that shit is free. They'll try to talk you into a package. Don't do it. Just be like, I just want to do the morning show and that's it. Usually that shit's free. So piece of advice for anybody.
So one thing that I was going to mention that was also the cost of marketing. A billboard for 1 month in Kansas City on anywhere that people are going to see it. Lowest is $2,500 a month. Lowest. The digital billboards, even though your thing is not on there the whole time, the lowest is $3,500 a month.
Jesus.
That's just for 1 month.
Yeah.
On any highway in the Kansas City metro. So,
That's still pretty well up there.
yeah.
Owning billboards is good business though. That's very lucrative. People don't realize you own a billboard and you rent that space out for a month or a year or whatever, 6 months, however long, you're making bank. So like outside of the Paracons, there's other events like the investigations, the celebrity investigations where, a location is bringing in a celebrity and you can go ghost hunt with them. Those, I sometimes wonder, do they ever, like how often do they actually make their money back if they're paying these celebrities to come in? Or the celebrity is just doing it as a favor to a location to help raise funds?
I only know of one that I personally, I know Josh does it, but I've never talked to Josh about how they turn out. I would figure they wouldn't keep doing them if they were losing a ton of money. But I do know one team in the Kansas City area that did one, and they did not make nearly anywhere near their money back.
No, I'm pretty confident. It's one thing for a team to have somebody come out to do an event, but I feel like if a location is doing, an event to raise money to help preservation or something, I think some of these, paranormal celebrities would be, more apt to not charge them anything to do that. Or even if it is like, they get half or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of experience in this, honestly. I never did any of those. I've never been to one. I know a couple people that do them. So
yeah. Now even Charles, like with the event we did up in Richmond, kind of got to see a little bit behind the scenes of like the operation of Paracons and even the ghost tour stuff, like the investigation afterwards. Those, running a Paracon is hectic. It is so stressful.
And Nick was just bouncing off the walls trying to get that place set up. It was nuts.
Yeah, and the your mental health and physical health, it gets taxed.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine with them too is they had the one vendor had to the location had to cancel because they had that big hunting group or whatever come through.
Yeah.
So they had to completely shut them out that second day or whatever, or maybe it was just that day.
Yeah, it was for the Saturday, but
So then, like,
it might
that
well
weekend
move-
before, they had to scramble to find a new location. Whew,
Mhm.
man. Talk
I
about shitty.
I had several speakers cancel even at the last minute over the years, and that's always fun because people show up expecting somebody to be there and then they're not.
Right.
But that didn't keep anybody from coming. Of course, there were a few people disappointed, but
yeah,
for they already bought their ticket. They're still there.
That just happens. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you have the speakers cancel.
Same with Planet Comic Con. They have speakers cancel. Or,
oh yeah.
You know, it's just law of averages. It just kind of happens. Sadly.
I was going to talk a little bit on the anxiety and stressfulness and the overall feeling of running an event like that. For me personally, most of the time afterwards, I don't really remember the event. Like I it's just such a blur and so fast. And I've never really talked about my partnership with Hector in any real sense online. Just some of my closer friends, including Glidden, know that I did all the organization for all of those events, and Hector was just kind of day of running the kitchen, running ticket sales. And he didn't even organize any little part of any of those events for the most part, except for suggesting a couple speakers. So, like, for me, and it took a toll on, you know, my wife and family too, because for months beforehand, I'm either at the computer or out looking places or trying to talk to potential sponsors or vendors around town. I was gone all the time. And then when it came to the day of, I just it was a formula of just like bam, 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 make sure everything's happening. And then I was super tired at the end of all of them. And the last one, I got really drunk really fast afterwards because I was so tired. And overall, like I love the paranormal field, and I'm still really interested in the paranormal, but the event itself, it started out because there wasn't one in Kansas City, and I didn't really feel like traveling to any of them around. I was like, I'm just going to do one here.
Yeah.
But the main payoff for me was in pulling it off. I got the most satisfaction of pulling it off. All the paranormal stuff was cool, and I loved doing that event and meeting all the people that I did. That's the other big thing. But for me, the payoff wasn't that it was a paranormal event. It's just that I was able to pull it off bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah.
Which I can totally relate to that, because that was the whole reason that I even did mine, was bucket list item number one. You know, something I wanted to do. And there isn't anything really close around here that, you know, like that. I think yours was the closest.
There used to be one in Joplin, right? There used to be one there.
No, there was
or was that
back in 2009. There was one. I spoke at it, but that was the last time there was one there. Springfield had one in 2015. That's where I met Spurrier. But Fort Smith, you know, there was one there. That happened a couple times. I went to that one. And then Kansas City, you know. So, I mean, it's hours away for me to go to any of these Paracons. So I was like, well, shit, I'll just do one here in Joplin. There's plenty of history here. There's quite a few people, and it's in the middle of all these big cities. Like Wichita's over here. We got Fayetteville down here. We got Springfield here, and we got Kansas City here. Like, it's centralized. But yeah, I don't think I really had a sense of accomplishment though with mine. I felt a little more disappointed because I put higher expectations on my stuff than what higher expectations than reality, I think, is probably the best way to put it.
You're also harder on yourself, but you know.
My first year of the event, I sold less than 10 tickets. I sold less than 10 tickets, but everybody that it was involved, all the speakers that came, and the other people that were there said I organized it so well that I should do it again.
Right.
So that's why I kept doing it.
And see, I get that too. I've been getting that. You tell me. Other people in the chat have told me. Charles has told me.
Dave, for your first one, that was really damn good. So,
that's the way I look at it for my first one. But like, if I do it again,
it can't be perfect. Okay, come on.
It has to be. Has to be.
There's no such thing.
But guys, that's going to do it for our time here on Boogeyman Radio. If you want to catch more, we are going to be switching over to our Patreon and discussing more.
And who knows?
Just go to patreon.com. What's that?
I said, who knows what antics will happen back there?
My hair is going to get let down. Beep, beep.
Nice. Nice. Was that Pepsi I saw? Was that what that was?
It was a bottle of Pepsi. But, just go to patreon.com/Boogeyman Radio. And for less than a gallon of gas, guys, you can be a part of our Patreon community, get extra show, get extra videos, early access, and all that good stuff. We got some really cool stuff coming up. This Thursday here on the channel will be the first of many 10 haunted places. It's kind of a revamped old video that we're starting out with, but we're doing our 10 haunted places state by state, and Kansas is on the docket for this Thursday, so catch that when it comes out as well.
Got Illinois coming up here pretty soon too.
Mm-hmm. It's cheaper than a dozen eggs.
That's so true.
That's actually true. That's so true. That's crazy to think. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And if you're going to be in the After Dark on Patreon, we will see you there. And Jason, if you want to join us over there.
Sure, why not?
All right, cool. Get more behind the scenes details. Maybe we'll get juicier information for you guys here too. So we'll see you there. Thanks for stopping by. I guess I have no sign off. Like,
good night, everybody.
You need a tagline.
I need a tag. Like, yeah, I need a thing. But
yeah, just say something random.
Don't go.
Matt Damon.
There you go. Perfect.
Bye, guys.